Hello everybody, I am David.
And I'm Brienne.
And we are here for another video.
Yes.
As you will see, today I am wearing my Superman hoodie. Because today we are beginning what is, without a doubt, the best TV show known to man.
Yeah.
Smallville. Because it's a really great show. I grew up watching this show. It's a very corny show, but it's a fantastic show. It's like the reason I fell in love with Superman. The reason I like anything about Superman, it began with Smallville. She has not seen Smallville.
I have not.
I have seen all the episodes of Smallville, many of them multiple times. I think I've actually rewatched, I think I've seen the whole show 2 times all the way through.
Wow.
And now we're going to watch it again. And I get to see her enjoy this amazing masterpiece of a show for the first time ever. We're not going to make a video for each episode because that would be over 200 videos and that'd be ridiculous. But we're going to make videos every now and then to keep you updated on the movie or TV show watching process. I don't know how many, I don't know how often we're going to do it, but we will. And hopefully we will get through the show.
Yeah.
It will not be in a month, it will not be probably in a year. But over time, we will slowly but surely get through this entire show, all 10 seasons of it. How much do you know about Superman?
Not a lot. Nothing beyond really what we've watched in the movie, like any Superman movies. But I've only seen, Man of Steel?
You've seen Man of Steel, Batman vs. Superman, and you've seen part of Superman 1 with, like the first Superman with Christopher Reeves. You know his origin, right?
Yes.
Okay.
I know his only weakness is kryptonite. I know that he's like a businessman, so he's like in disguise. You know, what is his name?
He's a reporter.
Okay, yeah.
Clark Kent.
Clark.
Yes.
I was about to say Kent Clark, and I was like, that's not right.
Yeah, it works.
Clark Kent. Got it. Yeah. So I know that, and then he can. That's his disguise. So he's like acts like super nerdy, so that way he can, like the glasses disguise him. But that's about it, I think.
Fun fact: he is never going to wear He's never going to fly, and he's never going to wear the costume until the final episode of the final season.
Oh, okay.
They had this rule whenever they started the show. It was called no flights, no tights. So he couldn't fly and he couldn't wear the suit because the show is about Smallville, right, which is where he grew up. So it's supposed to be about how Clark Kent became Superman.
Oh, okay.
And so it's like, it's basically this really long origin story. We are about to put in the DVDs. I've got all the seasons on DVD. We're going to put them in there and we are going to watch them. And I am very, very pumped. We will see you when we see you.
Yes.
All right. See ya.
Bye.
Okay, well, we have made it 4 episodes in. So far, we have had Static Scarecrow Jeremy, we have had Bug Boy Greg, we have had Hot-Headed Walt, and we have had Shape-Shifting Tina as our Freaks of the Week, as the Smallville fandom has learned to call them. Because basically, for the first 4 seasons, we basically get a freak every week, more or less. What do you think about Smallville so far?
I really liked it a lot. I don't really know what I expected it to be going in, but what I watched wasn't really what I expected. But in a good way. I really liked it.
I think if I were going in blindly to a Superman show, it definitely is not what I would expect.
Yeah, because it's not in-your-face superhero, which it is explaining like his origin and like the story of it. So I guess that would explain why. But I like it like that, though. I really like it like that a lot.
You're kind of learning alongside him who he is, right? It's not like you don't just show up and he's like, oh yeah, I'm Superman.
Yeah.
Like, he knows he has these powers, and then by the end of the first episode, he knows he's an alien. He basically has super speed and super strength at the beginning of season 1.
Yep.
Whenever Lex hits him in the car, he figures out that he's pretty tough, right?
Yeah.
Vulnerable. He sticks his hand in chipper, like the wood chipper.
Yes.
And then see episode 4 is whenever he starts developing the X-ray, right? And so like over the course of all the seasons, he starts developing more and more powers, and it's kind of cool. It's almost like puberty.
Yeah.
Right? It's like puberty for an alien with powers. Yeah. Are there any characters that maybe stand out to you, whether good or bad so far? First 4 episodes. Any standouts?
The Scarecrow dude. What was his name again?
Jeremy.
Yeah.
Right? The one who was in the coma for a bit?
Yes.
Yes.
That's the one that has like the generator, whatever. He has like the electrical powers.
Yes.
Yeah, he's creepy.
Yeah.
He's creepy. Every time he showed up in the like corn maze, what did I say? It looked like Children of the Corn or whatever.
Yes.
Yes. Every time he was just like standing there in the distance, I was like, oh yeah, that's it.
Creepy guy.
And then Tina, she's also psychotic. She's
very creepy.
She's really weird.
Pretty sure I had nightmares about Tina for some reason.
Really?
Yeah.
I could see how you would.
I think she's always made me uncomfortable. You know, it wasn't that she was like scary. She just made me really uncomfortable because she was like super obsessive. I think also rewatching these episodes now, you had to hear me say this a whole lot throughout it. I didn't remember how crucial Lana was to like all of these. We watched 4 episodes so far, and that poor girl, like she has got to have like PTSD after this.
A lot.
Yeah, just in the first 4 episodes, there are 2 different people who have like straight up stalked her and tried to kill her.
Trying to murder her.
Yeah, one time she's waking up like covered up in like spider web stuff.
Yeah.
And then 2 episodes later, she's being rescued from like a grave.
Yeah.
Poor Lana.
Buried alive, basically.
Yeah, she's like attracting all these creepy people.
Yeah.
It feels so bad.
But she acts like her reactions to all of them are very calm. Like,
yeah,
you just said it. You're like, oh yeah, it takes like a champ. She really does.
She's actually very sweet.
Yeah.
And she's much more patient with people than I would. What do you think about Lex?
Which one is that again?
He's the bald guy.
Oh yeah. Okay. Let me just say that him being bald just throws me off for some reason. I don't know why, but it just does. I didn't realize that he was going to be as manipulative as he was until he like robbed the bank. He like no. That was
him.
Tina.
Yes,
Never mind.
That was Tina.
Never mind.
Yes.
Never mind. JK. Never
yeah,
mind.
that was Tina who robbed the bank. Yeah, she had turned
posing
into
as
Lex.
him. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Never mind.
So what do you think? I mean, you've only seen 4 episodes. Where do you think the character of Lex is going, and where do you see the show going from here? You haven't had a whole lot to see, but I kind of want to trace that as we move through this, because you know nothing about the comics.
No.
You know nothing about Superman.
I don't have anything to base it off of.
Yes.
I guess just what I've seen, but I really couldn't tell you. I don't
Okay.
know.
This is what I get to deal with, and I love it. Yeah, she has absolutely no idea, and that's why it's so fun to watch shows with her, because she literally somehow she has avoided pop culture and everything like that for so long. She actually gets to watch and enjoy these things for the first time ever. Like, she knows nothing about any of these characters.
Yeah.
Like, the only reason she knew the origin of Superman is because we've watched Man of Steel and part of the original like the Superman with Christopher Reeve. She didn't know when we watched those. She figured out about kryptonite. She was like, "Is that why people talk about kryptonite being a weakness?" So she didn't understand that kryptonite was related to Superman.
Yeah.
So all these things are just totally fresh to her, and that's why.
Moment.
Yes.
Whenever I figured that out, I was like, my world like collided.
Yeah, that's why I'm so excited to be watching this show with her.
Yeah.
Because she's getting to experience all of this with totally fresh eyes. Because even when I watched Smallville, I already knew about Superman. I knew the general characters and stuff like that, so I could see where certain things were headed.
Yeah.
And so I got to enjoy that. She knows none of it. So she gets to experience it totally blindly. My mom's actually been watching this with us. And just now, she was asking me questions because my mom watched it with me when I was younger. And so she has things coming back to her mind. She's like, oh yeah, and she wants to talk about it. But I'm like, Mom, don't spoil it. Because I don't want her to know anything about it. I want her to just go through it like totally blindly. Because it's actually really fun for me to just see her try to pick up on things, and it's really fun. I guess we will get on to the next few episodes, and we will be touching back in after that. So we'll see y'all then.
Yes.
4 more episodes in the bag. We've got Shivering Sean, we've got Homicidal Harry, we've got Jumbo Judy, and we've got Earthquake Earl. What do you think? 4 more episodes in.
The more episodes I watch, the more I like it. It's really good.
Okay, of the ones we've watched just now, which one's your favorite?
I think I liked the last one.
The last one with the jittery dude?
Yeah.
I think it's literally called Jitters. What'd you like about it?
I don't know, I like the suspense in it. I thought that was really cool.
Let's start with the first one. We had Shivering Sean, right? That was the cool guy.
Mm-hmm.
The guy who, like, siphoned people's warmth. What did you think about that episode?
That was crazy. That one was pretty good. Wasn't my favorite at all, but that was good.
That was another one where it's like, you feel bad for Clark, because that's where he almost got to go on a date. Not date with Lana, but he kind of had to leave her because Chloe was about to go on a date with a homicidal killer, so... Yeah.
Let me mention when he always makes those comments about like, oh, gotta fly, or like, I don't think they're intentional comments, but I'm going to think that they're intentional.
Yeah, I think it's just a reflection of 2001. Because what she's talking about is that there's a lot of times where Clark's like, oh, gotta fly. I just thought it was a reflection of 2001 culture. She said, oh, I thought it was like Superman, fly.
Yeah, because he's not supposed to fly till the end, right?
You're right, yep.
Yeah,
no
so
flights,
I thought
no tights.
that was...
So we had the shivering dude, right, the really cold guy, and then after that we had the homicide, the guy who turned young, right?
Yeah.
And that's the episode where there was also Cassandra, the chick who could see the future.
Yes.
Yeah, what did you think about that episode?
Okay, I take it back. That's actually my favorite episode because I forgot about how she can see the future and everything. That was really cool. That was super cool. And then when she, spoiler alert, when she died, I was like...
Very end of the episode, yeah.
Yeah, I was like, whoa, did not see that one coming.
I felt so bad for Lex. He finally goes to the lady, he's like, let me see my future.
Yes.
And you see a bunch of crazy stuff happen. And he never gets to figure out what it was.
Yeah.
She just dies, and he just has to live with the idea that whatever she saw was so terrifying that it killed her. So that's terrifying. But what else about that episode? I think there's a lot of heartbreaking stuff in there for Clark, because he got to see the vision of himself surrounded by all these graves.
Yeah.
He's going to outlive everybody. That's heartbreaking. And then there was Jumbo Judy, featuring Amy Adams, in case y'all forgot that Amy Adams was in this before she got popular. What do you think about that one? Jumbo Judy, big... honestly, she's not that fat.
Yeah, she wasn't.
Because I remember most of these episodes. The main thing I remember from this episode was like where her mouth just gets really big.
Yeah, literally like
terrifying.
a snake. Her
Yeah.
jaw just like unhinged. I was like, whoa.
Yeah. So that's the main thing I remembered. But watching the rest of it, I'm like, she's not that heavy. People are making fat jokes left and right.
Yeah.
And I'm like, man, like, she's not that. I don't know. But what do you think about that?
I felt really bad for the dad because you could see he was trying the entire time. He's like, honey, I just want you to be confident. I want you to be happy. He's trying to do everything, and she's just not, giving in anything. So I felt really bad for the dad, and he has to, like, go off, and he's going to come back to his, like, house halfway blown up and everything. So I was like, aw.
Yeah, sad. He just goes out of town for a weekend, greenhouse gone, everything.
Yeah. I didn't really think that it was, well, okay, whenever she first, like, there was the deer or whatever that she had hit, or it was the roadkill or whatever, and then she went and, like, I guess sucked the fat out of that. I didn't think it was going to turn to humans until, like, she started talking to him in the hallway, and I was like, she's about to become a cannibal. 100%.
No, whenever she, they're on the stairwell, and he's, like, flirting with her, and he's like, what you do? And she says, I'm hungry. Yeah. I remember you were like, oh, no.
Yeah.
she's
like, about to become a cannibal.
Yeah. And then we got, finally, to the 4th episode, the 8th episode of the season, Jitters, with Earl. The guy who used to work with Jonathan and stuff on the farm, but now he's got the shakes.
Yes. A lot of suspense in this one.
Yes. Yeah. Tell us about it.
I think, just kind of like, predicting in the future, like for future episodes, I think Lex might be a little bit more on to Clark, because he asked him in the elevator, he's like, how did you pull us up like that? And he was like, oh, it's just adrenaline. But I feel like throughout all these episodes, he's like, been asking him like little questions, and I think that he's starting to like put puzzle pieces together a little bit more, because he asked that and he's like, okay, like that's not usual for like someone to pull 2 people up with 1 arm, and I mean that was with the kryptonite of whatever.
Yeah, it's actually kind of ironic.
Yeah.
Because it seems like really Clark was working off adrenaline in that moment. Yeah. Because he had the meteor rock affecting him. Right. Which severely weakened him. But it seems like Clark really was almost just using human willpower at that moment. So it's almost kind of ironic there. But we did see in, I think, the 6th episode where where Lex revealed to Clark that he had a bunch of people surveying the car and saying, hey... Yeah. They said, usual. Yeah, there's no way that this could have been, like, from the impact. Yeah. Like, something had to rip this off. Like, how did that happen? And Clark didn't seem to really care for the fact that Lex was looking into that. Where do you think that's going to head?
Well, I hope that he seems like a good person, like Lex does. I think there's something about him that seems like a little sketchy, but I think it's just like the aura and like the way that he talks. But I don't necessarily think that means he's a sketchy person. I think that might just be like his acting skills. But like there's part of me that's like, he seems like a little sketchy. And the fact that he wants to investigate it so much, it's like, are you doing it for your curiosity? Or are you doing it because you want something out of it?
Yeah.
But at the same time, I want to think that he's better than that, and he's not like his dad, you know? And like, he seems like he wants to have just a good relationship with Clark and a friendship and stuff like that. And I'm hoping that he's not wanting to find out these things so that he can take advantage of Clark and use it for his benefit.
Yeah. Well, it seems like he's kind of got this battle going on. He wants to be this good guy, but he's also been raised by his father, who's taught him to trust nobody and all this stuff. So it seems like he's kind of got these competing things going on. And you see that at the end of episode 8. Lionel is only hugging Lex, and it's the first time we've ever seen Lionel hug Lex. The first time they ever really hug on the show is because the cameras are on them.
Yep.
And at that moment, Lex looks over and he sees Jonathan and Martha hugging Clark. And you can just see the look in Lex's eyes where he's like, that's what he wants.
Yeah.
And you really see that being pursued in all these episodes. Lex wants Clark's life, and he even tells Clark, hey, you're like a brother to me. And he is constantly doing things to help Clark out. He's like, here's tickets. Wingman. He's the ultimate wingman. Yeah. And he's not even subtle about it. He'll just walk up to Lana and be like, Lana, I think you're with the wrong guy. I think you need to be with Clark.
Yeah.
And Lana's she just expects it at this point. She's not even surprised. She's like, oh yeah, I know. I figured you'd say that. Lex is a really good friend to Clark.
Yeah, he is.
And you do feel bad for him as you're watching it because every single person who sees them immediately identifies him with his father. And so, and you even commented on it. Lex really handles it like a champ because it seems like he's almost kind of just gotten used to it. To where everybody, even Jonathan, whenever Lex reaches out to them and invites them over to the mansion and says, hey, I want to help y'all out because I know that y'all's farm is having trouble, Jonathan says, I don't trust your family.
Yeah.
And so eventually Jonathan goes and he ends up taking a loan from the bank and stuff. Lex is trying so hard to do good.
Yeah.
But it's like he's having to overcome the sins of his father.
I mean, he's pretty old, like he's grown. So he's probably been facing this for like a long time.
Talking about Lex?
Yeah.
Because I think Lex is supposed to be 21 at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he's been probably facing this for quite some time. And the fact that he does take it like a champ just really surprises me. Like, you would think that by the time you're this old and literally every person that you meet comments on that and doesn't give you the time of day simply because of your father, like, you would think that person probably turned into somewhat of a psychopath. But like, he is still so kind and giving. Yeah. It's crazy.
Yeah, and he's really trying. And in this last episode, his dad is willing to just let people die. Lex goes in there. He just says, give me a bulletproof vest. He goes in there and he basically trades his life for everybody else's. Yep. And he takes the bulletproof vest off.
Yeah.
And he says, I will show you where level 3 is at if you just let the kids go. They let the kids go and Lex reveals, I don't know if there is a level 3. He just said that to so the kids could be freed, and he was basically sacrificing himself.
Yeah.
And then ended up where Clark ends up coming and saving them and stuff. But if it hadn't been for Clark, Lex would have died, and Lex would have gone down as a hero. He was literally just going in there to save those kids, which is really remarkable. Yeah. And then the dad was just going to...
I was just about to say, his dad was sitting outside, and they're like, yeah, we're going to seal your son in. And he's like, do it. I was like, what?
Yeah, because there was a methane leak due to the guy's jitters, and they're like, we're going to have to seal it, and your son's not going to be stuck in there. And Lionel hesitates for less than 5 seconds. He's like... do it.
Yeah.
He's like, okay.
I feel like he was honestly probably thinking of his corporation more than he was his son. He's like, do I want my corporation to be damaged, or should I, try and do something? He's like, that's fine, just do it. It's like, ugh.
And then afterwards, we have, whenever they are interviewing them, Lionel's just trying to save face a little bit, and Lex swoops in and just does the smart thing. He says, you know what we're going to do is we're going to help Earl out. We're going to seek the best medical care for him because at Luthor Corp, family comes first. And Lionel's like, oh man, my son's actually a pretty good businessman. Yeah. And then that's whenever they turn and they hug each other and stuff, and Lex just I don't know, that last image just kills me.
Because he wasn't even returning the hug. It was just his dad hugging him.
Well, because it was fake. It was a fake hug.
Oh, well, yeah. That's heartbreaking. Like, he doesn't even want to return it in a fake form,
I've seen all the episodes, right? So as the show progresses, you're going to see that Lex really wants that familial bond with Clark, and he really wants Jonathan's approval and Martha's approval. He really wants them to be kind of his foster family almost. And it's actually one of my favorite parts of the show. And I'm really excited for you to see where it goes and all this stuff because it's one of the coolest parts. And I'm really excited that you know nothing about Superman. So that it can all be exciting because you don't know where this will end up.
Yeah.
Before we go to the next 4 episodes, I gotta mention, while we were watching these episodes, we were doing some arts and crafts. And so I'm gonna grab those real quick. So Brienne has no idea what these are right now, but I think when season 4 rolls around, she will come to know what these are. Oh, and boom. Look at that. Oh, okay. Yeah, I 3D printed these, and we were painting these while we were watching the episodes. She has no idea what these are, but in season 4, she'll understand what they are. But yeah, so that was a fun little project. I think it came out pretty cool. We were just painting away and watching the episodes. But now I guess time for next 4 episodes. We're kind of just watching these one disc at a time. That's kind of what we've decided to do here. So, yep, next 4 episodes. Well, this time we decided to watch 5 episodes.
5 episodes.
And with that, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 more Freaks of the Week. But 2 of those were in 1 episode.
Yep.
Because one of those episodes, we didn't get a Freak of the Week. We just got a corrupt cop. But nevertheless, I still gave them all names.
Yes.
So far, we have got Snoopy Sam, Jealous Jeff, Businessman Bob, and Crazy Kyle. That was 2 in 1 episode.
1.
Then we got Arrogant Eric, and we got Warped Whitney.
Yes.
Whitney being a character who's been in this the whole way through, but this time he was warped in multiple ways.
Yes.
I almost called him Wasted Whitney because he got drunk. But then he started warping through walls, and I was like, he's got a warped mind, and he's warping through walls.
Worked well.
He's Warped Whitney. Warped Wall Whitney. Wasted Warped Wall. Well, I don't know. Okay, let's talk through them. Okay? So you've got 5 more episodes in the bag. Now we've gone through episode 13.
Yes.
Right? We have got 8 more episodes left in this season. And the first one we had was with Snoopy Sam. That was with the corrupt police officer. Sam, whatever his last name was, who figured out Clark's identity. The guy is very bold.
Yeah.
You know, he just like starts making these threats and he thinks he's in charge. And Clark's a young kid, so he's easily manipulated and stuff. And he's a good kid. So he, doesn't do bad things to this guy.
Yeah.
But if he wanted to, he could easily just destroy this person. And also, whenever the guy is approaching Jonathan Kent, he has no way of knowing that Jonathan Kent doesn't have the same exact powers that Clark has.
Yeah.
Right? He doesn't know where Clark got these powers. He just knows that Clark is super strong. For all he knows, he got it from his dad. And so, I don't know. He seems a little confident there. But what else do you think about the episode?
Oh, and, okay. I liked Clark's dad before this. But this episode, I was like, seal, stamp of approval, love him. Like, he is great.
Not push me.
Whoa, easy there, Mr. Kent.
He will stand up for anything when it comes to his kid or when it comes to just his family in general. And that is just, that's great. I
Even
love
when
it.
he's in prison.
Yeah.
It's like, face mom.
Yeah. Through the glass.
Yeah, no. Jonathan Kent's one of my favorite characters. I think in a lot of ways he reminds me of my dad. But really cool guy. He's got some pride issues. He's got some anger issues. But other than that, man, he is just a righteous, amazing father. And you can see where Clark really gets his values. And it's really cool. You mentioned this is the episode where we actually see Clark get a little unhinged for a few seconds, right? And
he catches himself.
Yes.
Whenever the cop comes into his house, his dad just got taken off to prison because they found the body in the barn. And the cop, planted the gun in his dad's car and then planted the body in the barn. So Clark went back in his house, and then he was somehow in his house. Very creepy if you think about it. But he was in his house and walks from upstairs or somewhere like that. It's kind of weird. But
that's a common thing in Smallville. You'll just see that people just walk into each other's houses very... Maybe it's a country thing. I don't know.
Yeah.
But then we moved on to the next episode, which included Amy, the girl who was totally obsessed with Lex, and her brother Jeff, who ended up being the Invisible Man. What did you think about that episode?
The invisible person went into the bathroom and tried to drown the one girl.
Victoria.
Yeah, that was crazy. That was crazy stuff.
And Clark went in and saved her, and He made sure to cover her up, though.
Yeah.
'Cause Clark's a good guy.
Uh-huh.
He's not going to do any bad, mischievous stuff. Clark's good. Clark's a good guy. We got, which to me is just probably my favorite scene from this entire 5 episodes that we just watched today. Clark and Lana sunset at the barn.
Yes. Man. And whenever it first came on, you had went into the other room to go and get something. And I was like, oh no, surely they're about to like have a kiss. They're surely about to like sit here and kiss, right? Oh no, that was when they were on the porch. That was not the sunset.
Yeah. No. Yeah, you're just totally wrong.
Yeah.
Nice. But that was earlier in the episode.
Yeah. Yeah.
So earlier in the episode, Clark and Lana, because Clark volunteered to help out with the blood drive that Lana was doing, and they were hanging out together at Lana's house, and they start talking to each other, and she calls me in, and she's like, David, I think they're about to kiss. I walk in, and sure enough, they almost kiss. Like, a lot of this stuff, I haven't seen these episodes in a long time. I don't remember what happens. But I did actually, right before it happened, I remembered that Nell walked in and was like, split it up. But that did bring up something that kind of, I think, I finally realized today. Lana is actually a pretty terrible girlfriend. I mean, she's a really awesome girl, and they really know how to make you like her a lot.
Yeah.
But when you just look at what she's doing...
Brings up red flags.
Yeah, I mean, I feel really bad for Whitney, I think. Because Lana, she's dating Whitney. But she's totally kind of trying to date Clark, too.
Yeah.
And it's like, she just owes it to Whitney. Like, if she's gonna go for Clark, break up with Whitney. Like, it's just weird.
Yeah.
Like,
you can tell whenever they're at sunset and Clark's like, no, like, we don't need to do this.
She's
like, Whitney needs you. Yeah. And she's like, why, Clark, why are you doing this?
For a second, she's almost frustrated.
Yeah, yeah.
She, like the
Clark's
look on her
being
face.
the bigger person. Like, he's doing the right thing.
Yeah. She's like, why are you doing this, Clark? He's like, it's the right thing to do.
Exactly.
And she's a little frustrated. And honestly, in the audience, you're also frustrated because the way that she's looking at him, you're like, oh, just kiss, please. Just kiss right now. Y'all need to kiss right this moment. But then if he actually did kiss her, you'd be disappointed.
Right, yeah.
Because you'd be like, Clark, she's dating somebody else.
Yeah,
like, I know
better
that
than that.
you're better.
Yeah.
And then, so when he doesn't, you feel bad for him. But at the same time, you're like, no, that's what he needed to do. But it's such a beautiful shot. And just the acting there, the acting in the show is often very cheesy. But in that scene... I totally believe it. Yeah. Like, whenever Lana is looking at Clark, I'm like...
It's very genuine.
I'm like, dude, you need to kiss her right now. If you don't kiss her, you're going to regret it. But he did the right thing. So, luckily, I was not him. Episode after that was Businessman Bob and Crazy Kyle. To where we got 2 superpowered people in the same episode. 2 freaks. One was bad. One was good. What did you think about that episode?
Yes. The one that was good was Kyle.
Yes.
Right? Yeah. So, thought he was pretty smart. You know, he went and secluded himself away from everybody else. And I liked the ending scene whenever he saw that Clark got hit with a bullet. Right? And he was like, don't worry, you just need to, like, your secret's safe with me. And he said that he hopes that one day he could use his powers for good like Clark could. Okay, yes. Yeah.
I think I really liked in that episode how you had the concept of 2 characters who have the same exact powers, yet they respond to them totally differently.
Yep.
One guy uses it for his own personal advantage. The other guy secludes himself because he realized the temptation is too strong. And I think that's something I've realized to appreciate in Smallville, that it shows that's really intriguing about Superman, because it shows his temptation with these powers. And so by looking at both of these people, he gets to see what could possibly happen. You know, like if he embraced the powers and just used them for his personal gain, he could become this terrible person like Businessman Bob.
Yes. Yes.
But if he secludes himself, he has the ability to help people. And so secluding yourself, that's just... You're taking life away from yourself, but you're also depriving other people of the gifts you could give them. Right? And so you're denying yourself the ability to bless those people. And so it's like you have to learn to live in the world with the power you have, but to overcome the temptation to use that power for your own personal gain. Yeah. And I think that's like a beautiful picture with just life in general. And that's a really interesting concept for me, because you've seen that with Clark. You saw that back earlier in the episode, like with X-Ray. Whenever he got the X-ray vision, and he was talking to his mom about what would you do if you had these powers, and then she said, I would learn to close my eyes. Like, she would learn to not look. because sometimes there's temptation that comes with having that power.
Right.
And it'd be so easy to use it for your personal gain, but Clark chooses not to.
Clark does a really good job at doing that and balancing that. So.
Yeah. And then this was the first episode where he got hit by a bullet. I think 2 episodes earlier, whenever they were in the Metropolis Museum or whatever, a bullet came by and like he like dodged it. He dodged it in
both directions.
Yeah, really weird. Like I don't know. He was like, "Which way am I gonna go?"
Yeah.
And then he dodges it because that's another cool thing I love about the show. Clark doesn't know how strong he is.
Yes.
And it's actually developing as the show goes on.
Yes.
So at the end, whenever he gets shot by the bullet here, he has bruises, which is, I think that's such an interesting idea. It's not that he's just like invulnerable from the beginning.
Yeah.
He's got bruises and he's going to get stronger. But also, I've always wondered this when I watch Superman movies. I'm like, how did he figure out he was bulletproof? You know, like, if I were bulletproof, I would not know that. Because I have never been shot.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I guess it starts with smaller things, but do you start like testing it?
Yeah.
You know, it's like
that you're okay. Hope it works.
I've never gotten a paper cut. What if I used a steak knife? It's like, how does that happen? And so with this, it's a much more organic way. You know, I mean, Clark gets hit by Lex's car at 60 miles an hour. He's like, apparently I can handle that. And then he gets himself in circumstances where he's getting shot. And he's like, wow, turns out I can handle that as well. And so it's really interesting how he actually has to respond to that. One other thing I noticed in that episode was, I don't know, I really like a lot of Lex's lines. They give him like these very epic lines.
Yes.
To where it almost seems like he is like the epic narrator who's like just inserted into the story. To where him and Clark are talking. And Clark's reflecting on Bob and Kyle's relationship and how they became like enemies and stuff. And he's like, Lex, do you think like we could ever do that? And then Lex turns to Clark and he says,
trust me, Clark. Our friendship is going to be the stuff of legend.
Clark and Lex's relationship is so cool.
Oh, absolutely. I was telling you earlier, I think it was probably after that, I was talking about how they are like the power duo. And like, I absolutely love it. It's great.
Really, Lex is always there for Clark, and he's really a forgiving person.
Yeah.
Because as good of a guy as Clark is, sometimes he treats Lex really badly. And Lex just forgives him. And like sometimes they don't even have the conversation where like Clark asks for forgiveness. It's just Clark's a jerk, and the next scene, like Clark needs his help, and Lex is like, okay, cool. And it's really good to see him and Clark's friendship developing. And then we got to the episode with Arrogant Eric, right, which is a nice follow-up to the last episode because we got to see in the previous episode the 2 people with the same powers and how they handled them differently. Well, in this episode, we got to see somebody get Clark's powers and handle them how Clark possibly could have.
I think it was smart to, how you were saying, to follow it up after the one where we had the 2 sides with the same power, to then put it in the perspective of like Clark's power himself. I think that just further shows how good of a person Clark is. And that he doesn't want to take advantage of those powers for his own benefit, or that he doesn't want to, use the people around him, because he was going around just showing all of his powers. Like at school, there was like everybody outside, and he was like getting in that fight with the one dude that was out there. He was just like showing everything, and Clark, he does everything he can to conceal his powers to make sure that nobody sees it. Because if people see your powers, they're going to want to use you for their own benefit.
One, it shows the influence that parents have.
Yeah.
Because Eric started off helping people out too. Right? That's how he became popular. He became popular because he went and helped Chloe whenever somebody tried to steal the purse. But his parents were jerks, and that set him off to where he was like, you know what? Screw this. I'm just going to go do whatever I want. Which is not the right response at all, right? He's responsible for his actions, but his parents largely were the ones who like kind of led to him feeling that reclusiveness to where he felt rejected and he went and did this. Whereas Clark's parents have encouraged him, hey, you can use these to help people, but you have to be cautious, and it's actually better for those around you if you conceal them.
Yes.
Right? And so it really shows how the parents can affect a whole lot of stuff. And I think it was actually in this episode whenever we had that heartwarming moment that cut to Lex and his dad. Because I think what happened is that you had Clark and Jonathan speaking after Clark got his powers back. And Clark said,
Eric didn't get my 2 strongest gifts. You and Mom.
and it's just like, oh, and then I'm pretty sure it immediately cuts to Lex talking with his dad about a business deal.
We talked about the period of time where Clark didn't have his powers, how it was kind of sad because he was able to actually kind of be a normal kid, and he was able to, like, play basketball. Wasn't good at it, but he was able to.
He's like missing every shot.
Yeah, but he was having a great time. Like, had a smile on his face the whole time, but he would actually, fall down and, like, feel pain. Like,
and he'd smile.
Like that.
Because he was like, wow.
Like,
nice
I get to experience what my friends experience. So that was kind of, like, sad, but at the same time, like, I wanted to have his powers back. But then you're like, oh, but he's happy without them. But he secretly also wants them back, too. So it's just, like, a constant struggle. You're like, don't know which one, but yeah.
Well, and Lana even commented on it. Like, they're sitting there, and she says, Clark, it's so weird. You seem very un-Clark-like. Because it's like the weight of the world has been lifted off your shoulders. And then later on, once he gets his powers back, she comes up to him. She says, you got the weight of the world on your shoulders again. And it's one of those things where you really feel it, where a lot of people don't think Superman's an interesting character. But I love what Smallville did, is they made him interesting by making you realize that he kind of feels alone. And he also feels this great burden to help people. Which, once again, perfectly sets it up for the next episode. Clark, he has this great burden where he feels he has to help everybody. Right? So when he gets those powers back, it's like the weight of the world is on his shoulders again. When you get to the next episode, Chloe gets injured, and Clark feels terrible, even though it's not even his fault. He feels terrible that she got injured, and so left and right, he is constantly apologizing to everybody about letting Chloe get injured, and even Chloe herself is like, Clark, if I blame you for this, I also have to blame you for the Dark Ages hundreds of years ago. Because it's so ridiculous for him to think that everything is his responsibility. But that's probably what you feel like when you have the power that he has. What do you think about that episode? That was the one with Warped Whitney and the green miracle tattoos.
I thought that was a really interesting concept. Like, I would have never thought of that, to, like, have kryptonite and to, like, put it on a tattoo to where it's, like, in your blood or whatever.
Increases your metabolism or whatever. I guess it's just a Smallville thing. Once you've seen a few things, you just learn how to make leaps in logic. But Chloe and Pete and Clark, they are just masterminds when it comes to understanding how things work. They're like, well, you know what they could have done? They could have taken the meteor rock and they might have written it onto their bodies, and that would have increased their metabolism so that they could pass through solid objects. And I was like,
right on the dot.
That's exactly what they did. How did you get there? And they've done that in past episodes too, where I'm just like, I think it's just a Smallville thing. I think that Smallville is, it's entirely like the culture of that little town is just drastically different than everything else. Because we even saw that in the episode where Clark's dad went to prison. He comes and visits Lana. It cracked me up. I had to pause the video, just laugh about it for a little bit. Because he comes to visit Lana, and his dad's in prison, and she turns to him and says, oh, Clark, I heard about your dad. And then in the sentences that immediately follow that, she begins to complain about how she feels bad about her and Chloe's relationship being strained because she's working as the editor of the high school newspaper.
I heard about your dad. I know it isn't true.
Thanks. How you doing?
To be honest, I'm in way over my head. All I wanted to do was help Chloe out, and now I feel like I've completely screwed up everything.
No more is exchanged about his dad being in prison or being accused of murder or any of that stuff. It's just commonplace in Smallville.
Just casual introduction to a conversation.
It's like, oh yeah, I heard your dad was accused of murder. Anyways, let's talk about the issues I'm having with Chloe here in high school. Smallville's its own place.
It's the same level.
Of these 5 episodes, which one do you think was your favorite?
I think I liked the first one that we watched with the cop.
First one with the cop? I think that's my favorite one. I kind of like the ones that kind of deviate from the Freak of the Week thing and get to something fairly unique. And I always like the ones when somebody learns Clark's secret and he has to hide it. That's like
see his true colors.
That's always an interesting one because you get to see how he learns to conceal it, and he begins to realize the importance of like a secret identity and stuff.
I'm really enjoying it. I like Smallville a lot, more than I thought that I would. I mean, I thought that I'd like it, but a lot more than I thought.
It's because it's the best show ever. All right, well, we will move on to the next episodes, and we'll catch up with y'all after that. 4 more episodes down. And in these episodes, we didn't have as many Freaks of the Week per se, because really it was only the last episode where we really got like a bad guy with powers. But we did have people who were bad, and we did have people with powers. And so it was a little different
Yes.
but I still gave them some funny names.
Of course.
Right? So in the first episode we watched, we had Juke Out Jude, followed by Revenge Roy. Next episode we had the Freaky Flower, right? Because it was actually affecting a lot of people. So rather than naming the people, I just decided to name the flower.
Yeah.
Right? It was the Freaky Flower. We had Mind Reading Ryan, could read minds, or Reality Reading Ryan, right? Because he kept it real. And then we had Touchy Tyler. 5 different people, but 4 different episodes that we just watched. And let's talk about them. So, first episode, that was Juke Out Jude and Revenge Roy. Right? So that was the one where basically the entire time there's this guy named Jude who Lex thinks has come back from the dead. But then at the end of the episode, it's actually revealed that that was basically a body double, which is very convenient. And then it was actually this girl's brother named Roy who was actually behind the entire thing. Bit of a harder episode to follow a little bit, but what'd you think about it?
Okay. 3 things that stuck out to me for
Okay.
the most part. So, one, characters were a little confusing in this one. So, like how you're saying, it was kind of harder to follow. I found myself a little more confused, but it kind of made it interesting because you can kind of like, think more critical about it. So
It was very twisty.
it was. 2, I felt so bad for Lex. I was like, gosh, like he can never catch a break. Like they just constantly blame him when he's trying to help people all the time. 3rd, I was not expecting for the girl to be the one who shot the guy.
Yeah.
That I was not expecting that at all.
Well, and that even reinforces the second thing you were saying
Exactly.
about Lex and how you feel bad for him, because the whole episode, you kind of think that Lex is just covering up for himself. When in reality, at the end of the episode, you realize he wasn't covering up for himself. He was actually covering up for the girl who had actually shot her own husband.
Yep.
And the brother didn't realize that. And so there were a lot of twists going on. And it was actually weird because I've actually seen this episode multiple times and I still forgot the twist. Which I don't know if that's a good thing or bad thing for the episode. Because it was a good twist, but for some reason it wasn't memorable to me to where I honestly, it was almost like I was watching it for the first time. Because as we were going, I was like, I didn't even remember where it was heading.
Yeah.
I was honestly really confused. Like I was still shocked whenever Roy ended up being the bad guy. The whole time I was trying to figure out how Jude was still alive. I totally forgot the body double thing.
Yeah.
Mainly because I think that was kind of stupid. What are the odds that this woman's brother would just happen to run into a guy who looked exactly like the husband that she killed? I'm like, that's highly coincidental. That worked out perfectly. I also don't fully know how he convinced the guy to play the part. They might have explained that. I might have just missed it. But those are all really good things you pointed out there. And especially with Lex. I think rewatching this series more in depth and kind of doing these recaps and talking about it, more than ever, I feel really bad for Lex. Because he really wants to be a good guy. And he is a good guy. He's constantly like just helping people out. We always talk about like his dark past and stuff, but even back then, that was like a 3-year flashback, and even back then, he was helping that woman out. He took her to the club to show her that her husband was cheating on her, and then he covered things up for her. I'm like, wow, like he didn't just start becoming a good guy when the show started. I mean, they try to present it that way, but then like apparently he's been pretty decent the whole time. So I don't know. I feel really bad for him because we see this especially in these episodes. Jonathan is so harsh on Lex. And all Lex wants is Jonathan's approval. And it's so sad.
Oh, and that was also the same episode where they framed, like, the Lex Corporation, or the Luthor Corporation for the oil spill with all, like, these cows on the farm being dead. Yeah, Jonathan just snaps on Lex, which you can understand why, because he was being framed, but also he just never gives him the time of day. Yeah, to even try and justify. Like, every time Clark tries to defend Lex, Clark ends up being right, but every time Jonathan, he's like, no, Clark, you're wrong this time. Later on, in one of the later episodes, I think we'll get there, where Jonathan and Lex meet up, Lex is saying,
from the day I first met Clark, all you've ever seen is the name Luthor.
And then Jonathan replies and says,
well, so far you haven't given me a reason to see anything else.
And I'm like, yes, he has. Almost every episode, he has given you a reason to define him by something else. So that's just Jonathan being a little bit biased there. One more thing I wanted to talk about in that first episode was, that's the episode where they were doing the background checks. They had that school project, and they were having to look into each other. And Chloe got assigned Clark, of course. She just
overstepped way too many boundaries. Like, way too serious about it, especially if you think about what it's for. Like, it is for a school project at high school. It's not like, you know, she's trying to become like a forensic scientist or something like that. Like, it's literally just for a school project.
Takes it way too seriously.
And she is contacting all these like adoption agencies and like just going up to like obviously high people loving corporations in order to like get this information, which is just crazy. She also likes Clark, so then it becomes kind of like even more obsessive because it's like, I'm gonna dig into your information. I also have this like huge crush on you that I know is not reciprocated. So it's just kind of,
and it sticks out
crazy.
Even more whenever you consider the fact that Clark got assigned Lana, who he is also very attracted to. Yet he gets on to Chloe and says, "Chloe, I only spent an hour with Lana." Everybody knows how attracted Clark is to Lana. Yet he says, "I only spent an hour with her and I got everything I needed." You spent so long on me. And she just seems very petty all the time. It's like she gets so mad about the smallest of things. And I think it's mainly because she's attracted to Clark and she just knows it's totally unreciprocated. But she's too much. She's too much.
Yes.
But let's move on. We've talked a lot about that episode. Next, we had the Freaky Flower episode. That's with the Nicodemus plant, which is named after Nicodemus in John chapter 3 of the Bible. Because, you know, that's where Jesus is talking to Nicodemus, and it talks about you need to be born again. And basically, the Nicodemus plant gives birth to a new you that basically acts on all of your inhibitions. Like, it's like takes away all your filter, and you just act on your immediate impulses. So you get to actually learn a lot about what's going on deep within these characters, specifically Jonathan, Lana, and Pete. So what did you think about that episode?
Okay, I think I'm just gonna go by character. So Jonathan was first, and that is whenever he like bashed on Lex. Whenever he came, Lex came to their house or whatever, and he was talking. He just completely just like threw him in the road, like ran over him. Like
I don't like you very much.
It was horrible. Like there was no sugarcoating there. That was because then he just getting like last episode, and then came to this one, just got bashed on again. And I was like,
poor Lex.
Dang it.
But he just handles it like a champ too. Every time he's consistent. He doesn't hold a grudge against any of them.
That's what I'm saying. Like the fact that he has not became like a psychopath or like doesn't want to reciprocate those feelings to those people is just crazy. Like he is such a big person.
No, Lex is a really good guy.
Yeah.
He's a really good guy in this. Yeah, Jonathan, he goes totally crazy. He ends up taking a shotgun and going down to the bank. But you get to see what Jonathan, like you actually get to see Jonathan's normal self-control. Because what you're seeing there is you're seeing what he naturally feels and that he's just, you know, he's got no filter. And he's got this thing where he says, I give and give and give to this town, yet they never give back and all this stuff. And so you get to see these emotions he's harboring deep down. And it actually really speaks a lot to his character. Because you would never know that about Jonathan Kent otherwise. So he has like kind of this stuff going on, but he chooses to be the better person and not act on it. And it's only whenever all those things that go away that you see it. And then he shoots Clark. And he's like, oh,
good
I
thing
made a
that he's
mistake.
like Superman, because otherwise that would have ended the series.
Yeah, that's true. And then he eventually passes out, and we get that really touching scene in the hospital with Clark and Martha. I don't know. I think that was one that hit more close to home. My dad like passed away a few months ago and stuff. So watching that scene with Clark and Martha talking about Jonathan and like if he died and stuff, it was like, oh, it's sad. Then we had Lana, right? So what do you think about the whole Lana scene? And you know what scene I'm talking about. Everybody knows what scene I'm talking about.
Well, we finally get to see that she's like confessing her feelings for Clark, because I feel like as the viewer, you know, because you get to see kind of like a third person perspective. But if I was inside of the show and I was like Clark, it might not be as obvious as like what we see. But because of this scene, I feel like her feelings towards him are a lot more obvious.
I feel so bad for Whitney. Poor guy. He just...
I think Clark like suspects. I think he's like, okay, yeah, I think that she likes me, but I also think that he's like not oblivious, but he wants to think that she's like better than that almost, and doesn't want to think that she likes him as much as she does, because he wants to think that she's better than that to like, you know, dating somebody else and to be over here flirting with him. Yeah.
But we do get to see that she does like him.
Yeah.
In that whole scene. And they actually have their first kiss.
Yeah.
Which to me, it's almost kind of bittersweet. I'm like, like your first kiss was
Yeah.
Like, I was kind of hoping that Clark wouldn't kiss her, but he's a teenage boy. I mean...
And she won't. She doesn't remember it.
Yeah, she doesn't remember
So
it. She doesn't remember any of it. Right at
Yeah.
the end, whenever they're sitting on the...
On the windmill?
The windmill, and they're looking out. She says, "Did I do anything?" He's like, "Nope, you did nothing." And then, like, the look on her face, she's like, "I think I did something, and we're just not going to address it." And then we had Pete, who...
Yeah, just went insane.
Yeah, he went insane.
Just grabbed a gun and just started going after Lex. There he goes again.
Yeah, he had a lot of bitterness. I guess we noticed in this episode, something that I hadn't noticed prior to this, is that Pete and Lex don't really ever interact.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, we've had
really.
Chloe and Clark and Lex interacting and stuff, but Pete never really does. And here we learn why. Pete hates Lex. And that's because apparently the Luthors, back whenever Pete was younger, they stopped them from, what was it? There's some sort of factory or something that they were going to open up, and Lionel stepped in, messed it all up, and that's actually how Lionel got into Smallville.
And he also made a comment whenever he was talking with Clark, talking about how Lex kind of stole like the best friend position.
Yeah.
And that kind of made me feel sad, because I feel like Pete doesn't have. He's in the show, but I feel like he doesn't have as much lines as the other one. He's not like a super like main character. He's kind of like one that people remember, but he kind of takes the backseat a little bit, and so he doesn't talk as much. So to think that he's like having those like inward feelings and like watching Clark and Lex, and he's like, man, like that used to be my best friend, and like this guy just swoops in and takes him, and that's kind of like, aw.
And then we moved on to the episode with Mind Reading Ryan. Kind of a touching episode.
Yeah, I really liked that one.
Yeah, so our Freak of the Week this time was actually a good guy.
Yes.
Right? He's like, well, I mean,
Kid.
he was doing some bad things, but he didn't want to, right? He was helping people steal stuff and everything. But yeah, so what do you think about that episode?
I think that was probably my favorite episode out of all of them. Just because I think it kind of got to show a different side of Clark. It kind of showed his like brotherly qualities and his more like protective side when it comes to family. I thought it was crazy that the mom is the one who ran over the kid. Then takes the kid to the hospital. Kid is like in the hospital room. One of the like nurses pulls him off to the side and is like, they're gonna have to like go and stay in like a police station or whatever, in like a jail cell. And she's like, no, that's no place for a kid. Like, we can take him home. Is that okay? And the first thing I thought was like, I don't think that you can do that. You can't just go and be like, I'm going to take that person home with me. It doesn't work like that. But
especially when you're the one who literally hit them with a car.
Exactly.
It probably makes it even harder.
You hit them with a car. I mean, at least you took him to the hospital. But then for that nurse to be like, well, I mean, I'm going to have to make some calls, but I don't see any problem with that. Yeah, I don't see any problem with the person that just hit this child. So also take them home and be responsible of taking care of them.
And I know everybody likes the Kents.
Yeah.
But just think about their backstory. Pa Kent, he's been arrested and in prison, being accused of murder.
Yep.
Multiple times they have had people coming to their house trying to kill them, right? Martha, she was almost killed a few episodes ago. They attract danger.
Yes.
And sometimes it seems like they're in the midst of it and they're getting accused of causing it. In the episode prior to this, Jonathan just snapped and was going after the bank with a shotgun.
Yeah.
Do you really want to be giving this kid to this family? I mean,
Yeah.
I get it. It had to serve the purpose of the episode.
Yeah.
But just,
In reality.
these are not responsible adults, especially whenever they were already talking about how Ryan was being abused. I'm like,
Yeah.
I know that everybody likes the Kents, and I do, like, we know the full story.
Exactly, yeah.
Most people do not know the full story. They just know that people keep going in and out of prison, they keep getting accused and then, like, cleared off, and also Clark's really good friends with Lex Luthor, so it could just be Lex's money, maybe? I think it's always refreshing to see those episodes when Clark kind of just gets to have that burden removed, because it's something I don't think you notice. When you're watching the episodes, you're kind of just seeing Clark be the hero, and you don't notice that there's, like, this burden on him. Until you see the episodes where, like, that burden is lifted. And he actually just gets to have fun. He's, like, playing basketball with Ryan, and he's, like, getting to be an older brother.
Yeah.
And it's like, wow, that's really nice. And you kind of wish that he had more of that. And that's even what Jonathan and Martha were talking about. Like, they were saying, oh, should we have adopted another kid? Like, that would have been cool.
I thought it was interesting that it was, like, a kid, too. Because all the other ones have been, like, grown adults. So the fact that, like, the freak character was a kid, I thought that was kind of a cool idea.
That's probably why he was good. He was still innocent.
Yeah.
Once they get into those,
innocence.
like, older teenage years, Terrible. The last episode that we just watched was the one with Touchy Tyler, which that's the guy who he touches people and can basically kill them.
Yeah.
Not basically, he kills them.
The way it started, the way that he like killed his mom, that I could not get past that. Like, that is crazy. If I was like in that position and my mom was to say that, I'd be like, no.
Yeah.
Like, that is crazy.
And luckily it didn't work.
Yeah, but for you to even want to try that, like for you to have like the
it was way too easy.
Yeah, for you to have like the willpower to even do that, to like sit there for a second, contemplate, and be like, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I would never be able to do it, but
Absolutely
especially
not.
like this guy, it took him less than 30 seconds to be like, all right, I'll do it.
Yeah.
He's like, okay, Mom. He closes the door. Like, he's a little bit already unhinged. The main things that stuck out to me in this episode were mainly like the relationships, right? Because you have like the conflict between Clark and Jonathan, the conflict between Lex and Jonathan, like the conversation where Lex and Clark are talking about their dads. And that's where Lex kind of brings up the whole idea that him and his dad's relationship, like Lex and Lionel, their relationship is more of just a PR stunt. Whereas he points out, Clark, yours and your dad's, like, y'all's is actually love.
It's like genuine.
Yeah, and that's really sad. And that's also right there, he says,
I just want you to understand, if I'm guilty of anything regarding your family, it's envy.
He says that he just wants something like that. And you see that, and that's why it's so heartbreaking to see Jonathan constantly turning Lex away. And Clark does it sometimes too. But more so Jonathan. Jonathan's the one who he won't warm up to him because he just has like this big prejudice.
Well, I remember a different point that doesn't have to do with that. At the end of it, whenever he touches his hands together and he like spontaneously combusts himself, I found that quite funny. Because
wow, you found a person dying funny.
No, the fact that he just had to put his hands together, that it was like that simple. I feel like there's so many times during the day where I would touch my hands together. I would, after 5 minutes, probably spontaneously combust myself. Like, I would never had a chance to touch anybody else.
I just wonder how he knew.
myself. Yeah, because it's one time.
How do you know that that's gonna work? Like, what if he had just been like,
Went to like pray.
Yeah. Going back to the Clark and Jonathan thing, they had the conflict over the whole fishing trip. And that was just a scene that stuck out to me because I actually have an explicit memory. I was telling you this while I watch it. I have an explicit memory of something very similar happening with me and my dad, where my dad had suggested he wanted to go like deep water fishing, and I've never really gone fishing in my life. And I just made like a small comment. I didn't mean anything by it, but I made like a little comment saying like, I don't know, that sounds kind of boring. And I didn't mean anything by it, and I would have actually gone and done it. I think my dad heard that, and he was like, oh, okay, we never actually went and did it. And so that was another thing that like hit really close to home watching it, because Clark and his dad had this whole conflict over that. And my dad didn't get mad whenever, I said that, because I didn't say it in like a... Clark got pretty mean about it.
Yeah.
It was like a huge blowout. But I don't know. That was something that hit close to home because it was literally like the exact same scenario that Clark and Jonathan went through. I remember that, and that's something that I wish I could go back now and... I wish I could go out with my dad and do that deep water fishing. That was actually kind of, I don't know. Like, I was watching that, I was like, ooh. Like, it made it feel real because, like, I've been in that exact situation. Those are those 4 episodes. There were a few things I wanted to mention before we move on to the final 4 episodes of this season.
Yes.
And that is, first off, the police guy.
Oh my gosh.
In the first episode we watched today.
Yeah.
Who just knows all the places.
Yeah,
right?
all of them.
So, Clark shows up. And he finds where Lex's bodyguard has been killed, and he's talking to this policeman. And he's like, oh, was there another body found in there? And then the police guy is like, no, there wasn't. And then Clark's like, okay, where is Club Zero? And this guy's like, oh, you're about 6 months too late, son. That place closed down 6 months ago. But if you want to find it, it's at this corner and this corner. And I don't know. It was just a funny situation to me because a lot of times I try to zoom out and just think of this if this were a real world scenario. There's a body being removed here, and then a random bystander's asking if there's a second body, and then without missing a beat, he asks about some random club. And this police officer not only knows when this club closed, but he knows exactly where it's at, and he is not even hesitant to wonder, why is this guy asking about this?
Yeah.
Excuse me. Did you find anyone else in there? Do you know where I can find Club Zero?
You're 6 months too late, kid.
What do you mean?
Well, it closed down. It was an old warehouse on 78th and Main.
I just imagine this police officer going everywhere, waiting for somebody to ask him. It's one of those things where you just have this random assortment of knowledge, and you're just like waiting for the day. Yeah, it's his niche. Where you have this knowledge, and you're just waiting for somebody somewhere to ask you about it. Yeah. And then you're like, my time to shine.
You're 6 months too late, kid. Closed down. It was an old warehouse on 78th and Main.
I just imagine him being like, yeah, I know every club in Metropolis. I know where they're at, every street corner. I know when they're open, when they're closed. I know their hours. You want the information? I got it, man.
I can give the longitude and latitude lines.
Yeah. I just imagine him turning to Clark. If it were nowadays, he'd be like, hey, man, give me your number. I can hook you up with other information, too. I know Metropolis like the back of my hand.
It was an old warehouse on 78th and Main.
It was just really funny to me. I don't know why. I saw that scene and I created this entire backstory for this cop. Yeah. I just thought it was funny. Yeah. And then one thing you kept mentioning a whole lot.
Oh my gosh.
Was the orange juice.
Yes. The orange juice 100%. It's first of all, if you've ever drank orange juice, it is not like an opaque color. Mm-hmm. Right? It's kind of like transparent a little bit, but the orange juice here literally looked like milk.
And they drink a lot of orange juice. Well, there was one shot in the Luthor mansion where literally the shot opened up, zoomed in on the orange juice being poured. Yeah. And she's like, that's weird looking. After that, every time there was orange juice on screen, we noticed it. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of orange juice in this show. If they just put a label on there, they would probably get a lot of marketing. A lot of orange juice in Smallville. I know that they call it the meteor capital of the world, but I think they also like oranges. Mm-hmm. And then the last thing I wanted to mention, everybody in this show seems to have super speed.
Absolutely. Yep.
I know that Clark is the only one who officially has it so far.
Yeah.
But every single person, like Clark will throw them across a room or across a building. Mm-hmm. And they will land against the wall so hard they should be unconscious.
Yep.
Yeah, whenever he gets over to them, within like 2 or 3 seconds, they're gone.
Yeah.
And it happens almost every episode. Mm-hmm. I'm like, how do these people do this? Every single person. Like, you're like, there's no way you got away in that amount of time.
Yeah.
But it's just funny to me because there's got to be a more natural way to pull that off. Because every single time, I'm just like, how fast are these people? Mm-hmm. That's crazy.
But it even happens in scenes when, like, Clark isn't present. Like, the ending scene where, like, Lana and Whitney were in the cemetery. Clark wasn't even there. And Whitney just, like... yeah. Or it was in the other guy that
Tyler. It was Tyler, yeah.
It just, like, randomly disappeared super quickly. And then Lana just ran off. Yeah. And, like, Clark was nowhere to be found. So it's just, like, they always are able to disappear, like, at any time they want to.
I just wish we could have a zoomed out shot where it's not like, you only see the perspective. I just want to see the zoomed out shot where Lana is talking to Tyler in the graveyard, and then she looks away, and then you just see Tyler be like, and he's, like, diving behind a tree, and he's like, oh, gotta hide right here real quick. But now let's move on to the final 4 episodes of Season 1.
Absolutely. Yes.
Well, we have finally finished the last 4 episodes. It is currently about 1 a.m., and so I think we're both a bit tired. She's going to have to be heading home a bit soon, but we had to film this video before we forgot everything. She might have already forgotten everything. I think she might have slept through some of these episodes. So we started off this one with, oh, wait, I forgot. I've got to give the names of our Freaks of the Week. Mm-hmm. All right, so first off, we got Stinging Sasha. That's the B girl. And then we got Jerky Justin. And, okay, that one, I wasn't sure what to call him. Because, you see, I thought about calling him Drawing Justin. Because it's both the, like, but I just couldn't do it. But I thought, okay, he's kind of a jerk. And then his hands were injured, so they were kind of, like, jerky. Right? And so I was like, okay, Jerky Justin. And then we had Loopy Lana. Right? Because that was the episode where Lana started having visions. Because she was kind of, I don't really know who the villain for the finale is. It's the tornado, I guess. The twisty tornado. No, it's probably the reporter guy. A Raging Roger. Reporting Roger? A Raging Reporter Roger from the Inquisitor. I don't know. Those are the 4 episodes we got. We started off with B-Girl, Stinging Sasha. What'd you think about that episode?
It's kind of weird. It was okay. It wasn't my favorite out of the 4 of them.
If I'm being honest, I think that might be my least favorite episode of the entire season. Maybe. I don't know. I can't say that definitively because I'd have to just look at all of them side by side, but that was the one, as soon as I realized it was the B-Girl episode, I was just like, okay, like, we can do this. They did that thing that movies and TV shows do a lot, where they just make high school student bodies and student councils, like, this huge deal.
Yeah, when it's not actually.
Yeah, they're really not. They have it towards like, oh yeah, you got to have like this big speech to be like the president.
Didn't do any of that. Yeah.
No, there's like this huge thing where everybody's like competing. Usually, I don't know how your high school worked. My high school, people literally just they hang up signs on walls, and then like 5% of the class votes. But they had this huge thing in Smallville, and this one girl, Sasha, she just took it way too seriously. She's like killing people for this. And I'm like, girl, you need serious help.
I think because she made the comment about how if she didn't get it, then her parents were gonna, like, her parents think that her future is based off of whether or not she gets this title. So I feel like she has, like, serious home issues.
Yeah. Well, I think it would have helped the episode if you actually got to see that.
Yeah.
But instead, she kept saying it, but you never actually got to see the family treating her that way. So to me, it was almost gave off the impression that she was just putting this on herself, because I know people like that. They just create this drama in their heads, and then when you actually get the big picture of everything, it's not as bad as they make it seem like. And I was kind of just getting that impression from her, where she's like, my parents are gonna like kill me if I don't get this. I'm like, are they really though?
Yeah, you're just over exaggerating.
Yeah, it's like I kind of want to see your home life, because maybe like then I'd feel bad for you. Other than that, I don't have many comments for that episode. And then the next episode, that was the one with Jerky Justin. Overall, I think he's like one of the weaker characters, but I do really enjoy the episode. So what did you think about that episode?
I was kind of confused at the beginning as to like why he was like what was wrong with his hands. And then he had flipped the page over and there was like an actual drawing, but that was before we knew that he could do it with his mind. And I was like, he's the only one in the room. No one else is there. The dude that was the doctor or whatever that fixed his hands wasn't in there anymore. So I was like, who like drew this drawing since the last time we saw him to now? But then later on we saw that it was actually his mind that could draw it. And I was like, whoa, that's crazy.
He's actually played by Adam Brody, which I don't know what I've really seen Adam Brody in, but I know he's somewhat popular, and for some reason in my head he's a big deal. It's kind of like the whole Amy Adams thing. I know what she's been in. We also had one of the Ashmore brothers in an earlier episode. He played Eric. And one thing I commented to you about is that for some reason, Justin seemed like he was constantly in pain.
Yeah.
When he talked, which I guess that could be part of the... Maybe they told him to play that way because of his hands or something.
Maybe.
But he just seemed like... The best equivalent I could think of is Jasper from Twilight. Like, we watched Twilight together. I don't know if you remember Jasper. He's just one of the vampires, and he just supposed to be in constant pain. I mean, this was before Twilight, but...
His eyes were always, like, super watery, too.
Yeah.
And they almost looked like bloodshot half the time.
Yeah.
And I was kind of like...
Maybe he had glaucoma. Yeah, it was just a strange thing. I couldn't tell if that was on purpose, or if that's just Adam Brody. I don't know enough about Adam Brody as an actor to know if that's just how he acts.
Surely they told him to.
Probably. Yeah, it was just really weird. But it's like nobody ever addressed it. Nobody was like, hey, y'all notice how Justin acts kind of strange.
Yeah.
Like nobody commented on it. It was just like they treated him like he was just acting totally normal.
Left it up for viewer discretion.
Yeah, so it was very confusing to me. This episode also introduced us to the romance between Clark and Chloe.
Oh, yeah.
Which came out of total left field on Clark's part. On Chloe's part, it's been there off and on to where it was never extremely obvious until the later episodes. It was like, okay, they started hinting at it more and more, where she would just get, like, jealous. But it's never been as obvious as Clark for Lana, right? A lot of times it just seems like Clark and Chloe are pretty good friends, and then every now and then she'll give him a look, and you're like, does she like him? I don't know. In this episode, Pete's like, dude, are you blind? She's obviously in love with you. And I'm like, honestly, it's not that obvious. Usually with characters I can understand. I'm like, okay, how do you not see this? If Lana did not know that Clark was in love with her, I'd be like, you're blind, Lana. I can understand Clark not understanding that with Chloe.
Yeah, because she acts like that around everyone, whether you're a girl or a guy.
But it introduced it to where all of a sudden he started getting jealous of her when she's all of a sudden with Justin. And he's all of a sudden talking with his parents, and he's talking with Lana, and he's talking with Pete, and he's talking with Lex, all about Chloe. He's like, yeah, I think I like her. And I'm like, this entire season.
Where did it come from?
Yeah. Is it just because you figured out that she liked you? Is that where it came from? I don't know. And
You know, it can be reciprocated, so you want to give it back so that way you can
Yeah.
have something.
But then also, I feel kind of bad for Chloe. Because Clark is very, like, when he's talking with his mother about it, he does not beat around the bush about the fact that Chloe is just, like, his second choice.
I'm not sure.
You said you had feelings for her.
It's not about Chloe.
You can't keep putting your life on hold because of Lana.
But if she sees me with someone else, it's like I'm saying the door's closed.
Like, it's one thing if that's how it started out, and you were like, no, I'm going to, like, commit to this, and I'm going to make it to where she's my priority. But instead, he's outwardly verbalizing that that's what's going on inside, which means that he's not going to fight it. He's just content with, he's just, she's the backup. It's like, oh, that's sad. And as much as I get annoyed by Chloe, their scenes are kind of cute. Like, you can tell, like, whenever he does things, like, she's like, oh, like, he's cute.
I obviously really like Clark and Lana together. But at the same time, I'm also like, well, Lana's with Whitney. And Whitney's a good guy. So I'm like, no, I don't want to break his heart. But then I'm like, oh, but I want Clark to be with Lana. I feel like there's probably just more chemistry between them two that's reciprocated in both directions.
Whitney probably has the best character arc of the entire season. He starts off as a terrible character at the beginning, but by the end, I just can't help but like him. He got a haircut, he's going off into the Marines. I'm like, you go, man. Yeah, and then in this episode, I noticed Lionel's majestic hair.
Oh, yeah, you mentioned that.
Yeah, I don't have anything to say about that other than that it's majestic. It looked really good. The end of that episode is when Whitney's dad died.
Yeah.
Right, and so that was everything seemed like happy for a little bit, and then all of a sudden Whitney comes in, and Lana was about
almost dumped him.
Yeah, because
he spoke first, because that would have been real bad.
Her and Clark had this discussion about redefining relationships. Now he was having to redefine his relationship with Chloe, and she was like, yeah, me and Whitney are having to redefine it too, and they were trying to figure out what to do, and she was about to go walk up to Whitney and break up with him because she realized that a lot of the reasons she was staying with him was because he was going through a tough time. And she said, well, now that things are getting better, she realizes that she was there almost for the wrong reasons. But then he walks in and his dad has died. And so now she's found purpose in the relationship again because she's like this caring person who wants to take care of him. But also, what are you going to do? Be like, oh, your dad died and I'm also out. Bye.
Yeah.
Put her in a weird situation. Really, she should break up with Whitney. Like, she owes that to Whitney. Even though I know he wants to be with her, and even at the end of season 1, he still wants to be with her. I get that, but she owes it to him to call it off. And then we get to the next episode, and that's the one with Loopy Lana, where at the very beginning, her and Whitney are out riding horses, and then they get off, and there's the pipes that burst, and then Lana starts having these hallucinations and visions. The one thing that did stick out to me in this episode, I don't have much else to say about it, the one thing that stuck out to me is this is the episode where Lex gives the money to Jonathan for everything that happened a few episodes ago whenever they poisoned all the, the field and like had the oil and stuff and killed all the animals. So Lex, even though it wasn't his fault, he gave Jonathan the money, but Jonathan ends up giving it back to Lex. But in between those two moments, there's this one moment where Jonathan's wanting to give it back to Lex, and Clark momentarily talks him out of it. And I loved what Clark said there because Clark was just spouting out wisdom. And Jonathan even commented. He was like, wow, when did you get so wise? Clark turned to Jonathan and he said,
Lex isn't perfect, Dad. I know that. But slamming the door in his face over and over only helps turn him into exactly what you think he already is.
When did you get to be so wise?
Ask my dad.
That's so true.
Smart.
And you see that happening with Lex. Like, every time Jonathan rejects him, Lex is getting more and more frustrated. And you hate it because Lex, in this season, has been a great guy. There's a few sketchy things that Lex has done, but never really in regards to the Kents, other than the obsession he has with figuring out about what happened at the crash site and stuff. So he has this weird obsession with that stuff, but when it comes to the actual dynamic of what he's doing with them, everything that Jonathan's been accusing him of, totally unfounded.
Yeah. I think he also wants, because he's mentioned numerous times about that best friend type relationship, I think Lex really wants to be close to Clark and close to his family, and so that's one thing that's holding it back, is because that's something that's in between them. So if he was to know that information, then he would automatically feel closer to them because there's nothing that's being hidden. Yeah.
It's basically this battle like light and darkness, and he realizes that Clark and the Kents, they are a light. in the midst of this like dark world. And he's like, I want to get away from the darkness. I want to come to the light, but it's like the light's rejecting him. That's the bad thing, because Jonathan is such a good dad. And he's such a good guy, but he's just got this big thing where he won't accept him. So he talks his dad into keeping the money. But then, as they're going to deposit the money, they stop at this field where Lex is having some excavations done and testing the soil. At that field, Lex discovers this bad boy right here. Yes, this is the original one. I actually took it off of a spaceship. Lex discovers the key to Clark's spaceship. Jonathan doesn't know that, but Jonathan does know that he does not like the fact that Lex is snooping around the very field where Clark landed. And so he gives the money back to Lex, which I still don't get. Jonathan just has like these weird quirks. I think he's got too much pride. I think he just doesn't want to take somebody's help, especially if he doesn't know exactly where it came from. He gives the money back to Lex and does all this stuff where, to me, if I were in Jonathan's shoes, I would think maybe you want to keep Lex close and stay on his good side. In the event he does find something, maybe you want him to know that you are a good person. Maybe don't push this guy away, because if he did discover Clark's secret, maybe you want him to
not use it against
the
family,
because everybody else who's discovered it has used it against you.
Right.
Maybe just be friends with him.
And he hasn't proven any other reason to use it against them. Nothing, any actions that he's done has not been proving that he would use it in a bad way. So you should be able to trust him.
Yep. I agree. Then we get to the finale, and the finale, I absolutely love this finale just because it's so simple compared to some of the future finales. It's all about they're getting ready for this dance. And you have all these like goodbyes that feel like final goodbyes. It's really weird.
They do.
You got Clark and Lex. You have Clark and Whitney, and everybody's just like saying goodbye to one another. There's like this weight to it, even though it's such a simple plot.
That's whenever Lex's dad came in too, right? And got rid of the company and told him to move back to Metropolis with him. Well, one, laying off all of those families, and Lex was concerned about that too. And that's another thing that really shows, I feel like, his character. Because the first thing that he said was nothing about himself. The first thing that he said was, do you know what you just did to all of these families? Like, go show me their mortgages and, like, everything that they have to pay. And you just took that away from, it was, like, 2,000 plus people, whatever.
Yeah.
So his dad didn't want to hear any of it.
Well, it's because his dad, Lionel, is just, he's straight up evil.
He's so bad.
It's amazing that Lex ended up so good. Because, I mean, you see darkness, even the way the finale ends. Like, we leave Lex off where Lionel is crushed underneath a column. And he's reaching out, calling for Lex to help him, and Lex is just looking at him. Right? And you can see in Lex's eyes, he's trying to decide, do I let him die? And so this is a very dark moment for Lex. But aside from that, it's amazing how great Lex has come. Like the Lex that we leave off at the end of season 1, that is the Lex that should naturally have resulted from Lionel. Lionel did not even hesitate back a few episodes earlier when it came to
when he was in the
when
building.
Lex was in the facility and it was under lockdown and stuff, and they're like, oh, your son's gonna die. Lionel's like, fine, do it. It took him less than 5 seconds to get there. Lex here, he's at least battling. You know that your father-son dynamic is jacked up whenever you're considering letting your dad die, and you're still better than your father. Not only did he consider letting you die, he was committed to it, and you only lived by Clark.
The ending for me, like, that was the best part when it comes to Whitney. The ending, because whenever she ran back to the bus and he was leaving, and like how he said that the first time I saw you, like, I loved you, and even when I come back I still will. I was like, oh, he's so loyal.
And in that moment it seemed like she was actually there for him. Right then, it was like whenever he was finally about to leave, it's like she realized what she was about to lose. And in that moment, it seemed like they actually, like, she was there for him, and then she's like weeping whenever she leaves. I was good with that. I did have one comment though about the him saying, the first time I saw you, I loved you.
I loved you the first moment that I saw you. I'll still love you when I see you again.
I'm just trying to wrap my mind around this because she's a freshman in high school. He is a senior in high school. And we know they were dating before the beginning of the show, because at the beginning of the season, whenever they were just entering into their, like, her freshman year, they were already an established couple. Like, okay, when did y'all first see each other? Was she in 6th grade and you in 9th grade?
That's weird.
Because that's odd. 7th grade, 10th grade, like all these, it's kind of odd at that age, right? If they were adults, that age gap wouldn't be weird.
Right.
But at the time, I'm like, that's, I don't know. Also, we learned, I think it was in the finale, we learned that Clark apparently met Chloe in 8th grade.
You know, I remember the first time I met her. It was 8th grade. She just transferred from Metropolis, and I was assigned to show her around.
I thought that Clark and Chloe have known each other for years and years and years and years and years. Mm-hmm. But he's a freshman in this season.
8th grade, we're like, last year?
Yeah, because like, why not just say last year? You know, that's the thing that confused me. He's like, I met Chloe back in 8th grade. I'm like, so last year.
Yeah.
You met her last year. That's what you're trying to say. Uh-huh. So that just really kind of confused me. I was trying to work through this in my mind. Where's everybody at the end of the season? So Jonathan and Martha, they go down to the storm cellar to find Roger there with the key, and the key goes into the ship. Mm-hmm. And then Martha's down there in the storm cellar whenever the ship like opens up, but then Jonathan chases Roger out into the storm. Right? So that's where we leave them off. Lex is with Lionel in the mansion. Lionel looks like he's about to die. Chloe and Pete and them, they're all at the dance. Chloe is sad, presumably because Clark left, which that was her big fear. Mm-hmm. But Lana's in danger.
Yep.
I don't blame him. I'm just saying.
Yep.
Because Lana, she wrecked her car, and then she's in a tornado right now.
Yeah.
And then Clark runs up. Lana! And then he runs in. Yeah. According to Brienne,
he looked for way too long, which that honestly goes for pretty much any TV show. They always, stand there and look for dramatic effect for way too long. Because if you were to put that same situation into, like, reality, nobody would actually stand there that long.
Yeah, you wouldn't stop and yell. You'd just keep running.
You would just go. Yeah,
that's true.
So, it's for the TV purposes, so that makes sense. But he definitely stood there for too long, and they looked at each other for a second, and I was like, you could have just grabbed her, because you can run quickly. Like, it would take you a millisecond to get over there and grab her. You could grab the whole car if you wanted to. You didn't even have to open the door and grab her. Just grab the whole car. Throw the other direction. He had time. But then that wouldn't leave it on a cliffhanger. Then it wouldn't lead up to the next. Right. There's a good reason. Yeah. There's a good reason. Was it practical? No, but it was a good reason.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so we've now finished 21 episodes. We have finished the first season. Mm-hmm. So very briefly, tell me, what do you think about the show so far?
It wasn't what I expected going into Smallville, but I don't really know what I expected. But this wasn't it. I kind of okay. I think the setup of it, how they have like a freaky character of like each episode, I didn't think it was going to be like that, but I really liked that concept. Mm-hmm. Like, it's really cool. And the way that they are able to like manipulate kryptonite, because me not knowing anything about Superman, I thought like it was just kryptonite, like the stone, right? Mm-hmm. But they use it in so many different creative ways. Like, I would have never thought to like take kryptonite and like do a tattoo with it, or to like put it in the ground and grow a plant, and now that plant is able to,
release
more. Yeah. Or how it can like alter people's minds and like what they see and stuff. I just saw it as Superman's weakness, so I really like that.
Yeah, and I think that is something that's unique to Smallville. Mm-hmm. I don't think most. Like, usually, there are other types of kryptonite and stuff in the comics and movies and stuff, but I think Smallville was unique in how they utilized it. They made it it's a big plot point of the show. Mm-hmm. Like, that drives a majority of the show. Mm-hmm. And that goes back to even how, when Clark landed, the whole meteor strike thing. Like, that's something that was unique, that they did that to where, I love that. Basically, Clark's arrival shaped the entire community, both for good and bad, right? So he's there to save them, but in his arrival, he also produced a bunch of villains. I think it's really unique how they have him arriving, and meteors are coming down with him, and those meteors contain the rocks that give rise to the villains that he will one day have to face. And I'm just wondering, who took care of them prior to season 1? Because, you know, Chloe, at the very beginning, she has, like, this whole wall of weird.
Yeah.
Right? She's got a bunch of different people who have gotten affected by these meteors. Were there just, like, massive homicides going on every week prior to this? There are way too many just high schoolers who... they get affected by these meteor rocks and they immediately turn into killers. It's honestly, kind of concerning.
Yeah.
It makes me really worry for the education system because they just immediately, they're like, boom, I'm going to kill.
Yeah.
Like, it's a rarity that anybody chooses to be as good as Clark chooses to be. So I just wonder what happened for the 12 years prior to this. Maybe Clark's been doing this for a while. We just don't know that. You know, he didn't have as many powers, but he's actually Super Sleuth Clark at 8 years old, just saving people.
That's another thing that I like, how he doesn't, it shows you like the progression of his powers, that it's not all immediately there from the moment he comes down to Smallville. It's like slowly progresses. Like whenever he initially got hit with bullets, he had bruises, but then towards the end of the season, whenever like his car blew up, he was like, Mom, Dad, I didn't even like really feel the heat anymore. So you can see like his progression as the episodes go on of him being more vulnerable. Yeah. Even his mom commented on it. He was like, she was saying, oh, you must be getting stronger with age.
The truth is I barely felt the heat this time, and the debris didn't leave any bruises.
As you get older, your body must be getting stronger.
There's a lot of little lines of dialogue where I'm like, that is a very obvious statement. Like, you must be getting stronger with age. It's like,
I'm getting weaker.
You know, as you get older, you're a high schooler. Yeah, you're probably going to get stronger with age. I mean, that's to be assumed. Your muscles are growing. You know, thanks, Mom. Yeah, and then whenever they're running into the dance, him and Chloe are running into the dance, and there's like this storm going on, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, what's going on?" And then they're already running inside, and Clark's like, "Let's get inside."
Crazy!
I know.
You okay?
Yeah.
Let's get inside!
Let's get inside! Let's get inside!
Thanks, Clark. Thank you for stating the obvious thing that everybody's already thinking.
And acting upon.
Yes, they're already climbing the steps to get into the high school. They're like 5 feet away from the entrance. Yeah. Let's get inside!
Let's get inside!
I'm like, thank you, Clark. Thank you for stating that. Yeah. Maybe the super intellect hasn't totally clicked in yet. Except, it apparently has, because Clark is a genius.
Yeah,
he knows how to
is a great detective.
Yeah.
He just puts 1 and 2 together in 0.5 seconds.
Well, and he's just like a master at chemistry and biology and all this stuff. Like, he can just spot a place to create an explosion.
Yeah, through a screwdriver at like a tank.
Yes.
And it's somehow like the sharpest screwdriver alive because it somehow punctured a like steel tank of gas.
Yeah, which I guess maybe if you think about it, like the force he threw it,
True.
And if it landed at the right angle, it could do that. But I still don't see how the explosion would have started there. I mean, maybe it's like he hit it with such force that there was like a spark.
Maybe.
I don't know. But Clark...
He did it.
So. And it's not the first time. Like, he also, whenever he was saving... what's his name? Ryan? When he was saving Ryan out of the dump truck...
Yes.
A few episodes ago, he's like, shh, and he like rips the thing off. I'm like, how did you know to twist that valve? And he did the same thing whenever they were in the Luthor Corp facility and the methane gas. Yeah. He's like, and he's just doing this stuff. I was like, oh.
all of these knobs and pipes on the wall, and he's like, this one right here.
Yeah. Like, my luck, I would have these powers, and I'd run up to a valve, and I'd turn it and be like, haha, saved the day. And they're like, that valve did literally nothing. Like, everybody's still gonna die. I'd be like, oh. And then I'd walk up to the dump truck, be like, rip off this valve, and it would still crush Ryan.
Yeah.
And then I'd be like covering the girl with the bees, and be like, throw it at the gas tank, and just the gas would just start leaking out.
Well, that backfired.
Last question. Where do you think it's heading in season 2?
I think that love interests are definitely going to change. I feel like Lana's probably going to go to Clark. Just because Whitney talked about so much about Lana being loyal. And even, like, pulled Clark off to the side and was like, hey, while I'm gone, I need you to take care of Lana for me. And you could see even Clark was like, okay. Like, he was like, no, like, I really need you to take care of her for me.
Clark's like, I'll take care of her real good.
So,
sure you don't want to specify that better?
Listen, Clark, there's something I want to ask you. Favor.
Okay?
Lana's not sure how she feels about our relationship right now. But I am. I need you to look after her until I get back.
I really don't know what to say.
Say yes.
Okay?
Clark?
Promise.
Yeah.
I kind of wish Pete would, like, get more of a front character, you know, because I feel like he's always kind of in the back seat. And he has, like, a few lines, and he's just kind of, you know, Clark's friend.
Yeah.
So I wish that he would kind of come forward a little bit and have some more parts. I think that would be fun. I think Chloe's still going to be a crazy investigative spy type situation where she takes the newspaper a little too seriously. I think she's still going to continue on that path because that just seems like her character.
What about Lex? What do you think is going to happen with Lex?
I feel like he's going to get really mad at his dad. I don't think he's going to go back to Metropolis. I think he's going to stay. I wonder if he'll, like, stay with the Kents. But I also don't think, like, Jonathan's still not there, like, liking him enough. But I don't know if maybe something will happen to where he brings him in and is like, hey, you can stay. I don't know.
All right. Well, I guess we'll just have to find out when we get to season 2. We officially finished season 1, and we will see y'all next time when we get started with Smallville season 2. Bye.